So when it comes to this idea about drama in relationships, it all comes from a certain pattern of behavior. All of it does. In fact, by the time this conversation is over, I promise you, any drama you've ever had in a relationship, you'll be able to bring it back to exactly what we're about to talk about. And it's this thing called the Cartman Triangle. Now, people keep wanting to know something about Cartman from South Park. I don't know nothing about all that. But what I do know is there's a form of relationships that has been defined as the Cartman Triangle. And I'm not going to be really thorough in explaining what that is. Instead, I'm going to put a link into the description for you to go in and watch it. It's about a 3-minute video. It does a really good job, makes it really concise. However, the purpose of this video is to demonstrate some things that might be missing in that and to elaborate on that and to more get to the point of a now what that I've recognized the triangle. Okay. So let me say this. The Cartman Triangle exists in a triad, right? Of course, three individual roles. Now I want to be really clear that all relationships exist in a triad. None of them are a dyad. None of them are just me and you. If it's just me and you, then there is my finances, also an influence. If not my finances, my health. Or in a husband and a wife, it's the children. Or it's a husband and the wife and the career. There is always a triad of influences. It's never just my ride or die. There's these other things and other people involved here. That's normal. What's not normal and what's not healthy is when these roles show up like what are in this video to the link that I've given you below. The victim, persecutor, rescuer role. And in this video, it makes it very explicit that these roles interchange. The victim can become the persecutor, who can become the rescuer. They can come back to the victim. They can go to the rescuer. They're really interchangeable. So it makes that very explicit. An implicit statement the video makes is just kind of we kind of get it. But the idea that whenever one role is there, all three have to be there. Because it can't be a victim without a rescuer. Can't be a rescuer without a persecutor. They all three have to be there. And it's been my observation that this Cartman Triangle starts for one of three reasons. One, a person is a victim. It really happened, and they got stuck in that role, which we'll talk about in just a minute, how that gets perpetuated. Or two, their family of origin functioned in this dysfunctional drama triangle interaction, and that's just what they learned. And they realize that the relationships aren't satisfying. They just don't know why, because they stay in this victim, persecutor, rescuer cycle. Or three, I found that somebody with a good, well-intentioned heart, maybe as a people helper, steps into a relationship and ends up trying to be an emotion eater, if you will, or take all the pain from somebody, and that never works. That's a bad decision, because then you're the rescuer. You're not respecting that person's pain very well. So that's how the relationships can start, and how they interchange is simply because if you really are a victim, like you genuinely are a victim, nobody likes that. So what can end up happening is they say, I will never be a victim again, and end up pushing everybody away from them. Or they become mean, or they become harsh, and they slide right up into the persecutor role. Nobody's allowed close. They have very rigid, cold boundaries. Intimacy is very difficult with this person. But you can't stay there for long, because that gets lonely. And it starts hurting your heart. And you think, I can't live like this. So you slide down to the rescuer role and try to find purpose by being kind and loving and helping everybody. Except the problem with that is you can't help everybody. And not everybody who's in a bad spot wants help. They want to stay in that role. And that, of course, makes you feel unappreciated. So here you go, right back in the victim role, and you just spend this time going around. Now, the other nuance to this is this triangle can happen interpersonally, like with you and me. It can also happen intrapersonally. I can do this just to me. And here's how a person can get stuck in this. Like this victim who doesn't want help. Or you don't know that they don't really want help. So I'm going to do the best I can to illustrate this with fingers. Right, here we go. So you have a victim, and you have a genuine persecutor, something that's really bad. A child really is being abused. A spouse really is being abused. A criminal really did kick open the door to the house or harm somebody. The persecutor is real. The victim is real. The rescuer needs to come in, get very close to the victim, sever the relationship with the persecutor. That's how it's supposed to happen. Except those roles shouldn't last long. The rescuer goes away. The victim realizes, okay, now I'm safe. They process through, they move on. It becomes a problem when the victim and the rescuer stay very close. And the reason that happens is because this makes the victim feel really cared for, feel loved. I want the rescuer close. And it helps the rescuer feel very validated, very purposeful, like they have a sense of direction in their life. I feel needed. I feel cared for. But this is what you have. And remember, if you have one role, you have to have all three. You've got the victim, and you've got the persecutor, or the rescuer. What's missing is a persecutor. Watch what happens. The victim and the rescuer get really close, and eventually, over time, the rescuer starts to pull away, thinking, man, this is exhausting. This is not what I want. How does that make the victim feel? Abandoned, judged, rejected, hurt, and who did it? The rescuer. That's who did it. So the victim turns the rescuer into the persecutor. Now you have the victim and the persecutor. Who do you need now? An all-new rescuer. And the victim and the rescuer move close. Firm boundaries, and the rescuer pulls away eventually, leaving the victim feeling hurt, looking for another rescuer somewhere. And that's the cycle that continues to perpetuate over time, and it feels like chaos. So what do? There's a fourth role. It's the bystander role, the role on the outside of the triangle, using one very specific tool called reflection, where you speak back into what's happening. You can see what's happening and you speak to it. I'm not fixing it. I'm not making it worse. I'm not wallowing in it. I'm just seeing it and observing it. And then we practice this emotional skill called differentiation, where you can feel like somebody's being mean, but you don't have to be saved. You can feel mad as fire, but you don't have to have revenge. You can feel really sad for somebody hurting, but you don't have to save them from it. You differentiate your behavior from the feeling, and you reflect back. You have empathy, but you don't get in the middle of it. You stay out of that. And watch that Cartman triangle with that person become intrapersonal. Now it's within themselves, and they try to draw you in, and you don't get drawn in. It looks like chaos, but to me, seeing it as an individual, I have a sense of peace because I'm recognizing what I used to do. And I will never go back to being in that type of drama relationship. If you've ever had drama with anybody in your life, I promise you, it looked just like that triangle. There's a fourth role, the bystander. You just reflect what you see, and you don't have to respond to it. You can just see it and acknowledge how difficult it is, and watch the drama in your life come down.